Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and today I'm sitting down with Constance Wu, who has had quite the year. Her film Crazy Rich Asians has made more than $230 million in the global box office, and she plays the no-nonsense mom Jessica Wong on the hit show Fresh Off the Boat, which is in its 5th season on ABC. Today, we're going to talk about all of that, plus her financial journey in Hollywood. Please help me welcome Constance Wu. You did like a deep breath after I said that. It's been quite a year, huh?
It really has.
Yeah.
I mean, an amazing year. So I'm really grateful for that.
What has been the more interesting part of just adjusting to all this attention and just all the hoopla around Crazy Rich Asians?
Probably managing sleep. Yeah. You know, making sure I get enough, because I'm shooting the 5th season of my show at the same time that I was doing press for Crazy Rich Asians. So it was a lot to handle, but I'm so lucky to have to handle that, you know?
It's a good problem to have, but I always watch when things are blowing up and I'm like, I hope they're getting enough sleep and hydration. And are you a big coffee person or like matcha or Red Bull?
You know, it's weird. I used to be really into coffee. And then like when I started, this is strange. When I started Crazy Rich Asians press, I just didn't feel like having it anymore. Maybe I had enough adrenaline from just the excitement that I didn't. And now I've been doing tea, which is so weird because I used to hate tea. I was like, oh, this is so boring, but now I love it, so.
I was just drinking tea in the back too. I feel like otherwise I'll drink too much coffee, so tea is like a nice. So it's been an amazing year, but your life really started off really normally. I mean, you grew up in Virginia, just had like a standard childhood.
Yep.
So how did you get to Hollywood? What was that journey like?
Well, I started out in New York. I went to drama school in New York. And then I just sort of made the big decision to try it out in New York City and invest in my career. I didn't know anybody here. I didn't have any help. And that's why I'm here, because I'm partnering with Amex for this new Pay It Plan It feature on their cards, which I really wish I had, because, you know, when you're first starting out your career, there are a lot of like big purchases that you know are important for your career and for your peace of mind, even if it's like having furniture for your apartment. And with this new plan, it gives you control and flexibility to pay things over time in your way. And it's clear from the start, which I think is really great. So you feel like you can manage your finances in a way that feels great for you and feels like an investment in yourself and in your future.
I'm very familiar with the plan. What I love about it is that you can pay your monthly bill on time, but for those bigger purchases, you can do the payment plan, and it's like a fixed rate, and there's no interest, so you can.
And you know exactly what you're doing and how long you're going to do it for.
Yeah, and there's so many like predatory lenders and loans and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so it's nice. That
I definitely fell into that trap when I was first starting my career. So I wish there was a feature like this around. You know.
So financially, was it an easy road for you, or did you hit some pitfalls with debt and things kind of coming up?
Oh, it was so hard. Yeah. You know, because I didn't come from money. I didn't really have any hookups. I had a BFA in like classical theater, which is not that practical for, you know, when you're applying for a regular job. So I was just a waitress for 10 years. And waitressing, well, I actually had a great time doing it. You never know how much you're gonna make. There's like a baseline. You think like, oh, I'll make at least this every night. But then sometimes you have like a really great night where you have like a lot of big parties that spend, you know, get nice wine and stuff like that. So it was just, it was kind of living paycheck to paycheck and knowing and having the confidence that I was doing the thing I wanted to do, regardless of whether or not it was bringing me an income yet.
So acting was always your passion, it sounds like.
Yes, always, yeah.
Where did you wait tables, by the way?
Oh my gosh, my first job ever in New York City was the Union Square coffee shop, which just closed down. It's crazy.
Iconic.
It was like an institution, kind of.
You had like the quintessential New York actor experience then.
And I don't remember anybody's name there because everybody just called each other baby. I remember that, like the bussers and the cooks would just baby other waitresses.
That was quite the scene. That would have been really fun.
It was fun. It was nice.
Yeah. So what was your biggest money mistake, maybe, at that time?
My biggest money mistake. I think it honestly just involved overspending in a way that actually affected me mentally because I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I didn't have clarity from the start. And because of that, it kind of compromises your mental energies. And it's this thing nagging in the back of your head, like all the time. And I think when you free up that mental space, it gives you the control to use that mental space and that energy to pursue the things that you love and that will make your life better.
I've always believed that once you take control of your money, even though it's so scary and seems daunting, but once you have a plan for it, that pressure kind of dissipates and you can, like you said, focus on your art. And
it's a type of freedom.
Yeah.
For sure.
And for you, you waitress for 10 years, but then you landed the role of a lifetime.
Yes.
With Fresh Off the Boat.
Yeah.
Really, that was great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a dream come true. I couldn't believe it. I'd never really done comedy before, actually, unless you count like Shakespearean comedies. And I hadn't done any like TV, like network TV. And then my first real network TV job was a lead on Fresh Off the Boat, so I feel really lucky. I felt lucky to even get it, and then the fact that it was picked up to series felt even luckier, and the fact that now we're in our 5th season and we've hit syndication, which is a real milestone. I mean, I feel so lucky and grateful to be a part of it.
It's the first show with an all Asian American cast, right, to reach syndication.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know what syndication is, I mean, that's a major, I mean, that throws you into icon status because that means another network has picked up the show. It's going to continue to show. New audience are going to see it. And
usually you hit that when you've done 100 episodes of television. We got it a little bit earlier. I think at this point, though, I think I've done 82 episodes of television. Like when I think about I did 82, like that's insane. But it's, thank you.
Speaking of the show, I think we have a clip from next week's episode, so I wanted to check that out.
Let's see it.
I want to teach Eddie to drive. He needs to be ready, more than ready.
No, we agreed.
I know, but I forgot about this bad Asian driver stereotype.
You forgot about it? You make those jokes all the time.
I do not.
What about this morning?
Asian driver coming through.
It's okay, Louis. We can joke about it. We are Asian. Also, I back into the trash cans twice a week.
That's because you're a careless driver, not because you're Asian.
Are we sure? I'm joking, kind of.
How fun is that? Just to get to show up to work every day and tell these stories.
And it's so fun to work with Randall. He's just a dream of a co-star. Just so kind and like fun to play with within a scene, and just gracious and generous and awesome. And then the kids, to see them go from here to like there, that's been crazy. Like I think Hudson's like 6'2" now.
Yeah, I started watching for a season and then I just watched the last couple episodes and I was floored at watching these little boys grow up.
Yeah, their heights went here and their voices go here. You know?
So how has that changed the stories that you guys tell?
Well, here's the great thing about it. I mean, our show centers an Asian American experience, and it shows how there are problems that are uniquely Asian, such as a bad driver stereotype, as we've seen in this, or like people making fun of Eddie's food when he first goes to school. But then it also shows storylines that are relatable to just any American family, such as, you know, the anxiety that I'm sure comes along with teaching any kid how to drive, you know, when they turn 16, which, you know, maybe people won't have to do in a few years with self-driving cars. But I feel like that's going to happen.
I do love the show, though, because it is so universal. If you're anybody who's ever been other, I think it's really easy to identify with these characters. I grew up in Nebraska, and so the things that Eddie was going through in those first couple of seasons, I could totally relate to.
Yeah.
So do you think that's something that keeps you guys on the air up to the 5th season, because it's so relatable to a lot of different groups?
For sure, and I think the fact that people forget we're a period piece. Our show takes place in the 90s. I think that is kind of why this story happened, because when you are not part of the dominant culture, because I grew up in Henrico, Virginia, there were only like a few Asian kids in my whole school. When you're not part of the dominant culture, you're kind of looking for a culture that you identify with. And today we have the internet. So you can find other people who are like-minded and sort of have that type of community. But back in the 90s, we didn't really have that. So you sort of looked to pop culture. And I think that's very much why Eddie Huang, the real Eddie Huang, sort of like found a type of community or an understanding in like hip hop music. And I think that that's important to people, and that's why people respond to the show.
Are there any topics or themes or trends that you guys haven't touched on that you want to make sure you get to?
I don't know, our writers are pretty thorough. They get at things that I didn't even realize were things. And then I'm like, oh, that is a thing. Like we had one episode all about how like Asians use their dishwashers as drying racks. And I never knew that was a thing, because I was like, oh, doesn't everybody do that? And I'm sure there are other people who do that too, but I was like, oh, I guess when I go over to like my aunt's house, they do that too. And it was just like, you know, it's not neither a bad nor a good thing. It's just a specific thing, and it's that specificity that's really fun.
It's just those little things always that
Yeah.
like make the best sort of like content.
For sure.
And recently you were named, you were honored actually at In Style. You were given the Badass Woman Award.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a cooler award to get?
I don't know, but it was pretty cool to get an award called a badass woman. I never thought I'd get an award with the word ass in it. So I got it. So it's like, all right, I hit every milestone. No. It actually used to be called the Advocate Award. And it was for people who engage in advocacy and activism, which I do. It's very important to me. But then they changed the name of it this year to the Badass Woman Award. And I think that's because these days, the people who are considered badasses are the people who care and they fight for causes, which is what advocacy and activism is.
And you've been outspoken both with Time's Up, but also with making sure that Asian American actors are given roles, and the inclusion is part of something that you really speak out against. I want to know for you, what does success in the inclusion conversation mean?
The word success is interesting because it like implies a finality. Like it's like you hit a milestone and then it's done, like puberty, I guess. It's one of those, speaking of
Good
fresh off the
comparison, yeah.
But that's not how it is. I think everything is, it's maintenance, it's a process, it's something that you always want to think about just to make you a more well-rounded person. Not just to create this type of content, but to seek out content that is maybe different than the story you know. And because that, I think, stretches all of our empathies. And that's probably not a bad thing, you know, to have a lot of empathy.
I just have this conversation with my friends a lot. We're people who consume a lot of different media, and we're always like, when do we know that we've actually made a dent, or that it's not something that's going to be taken back, right? Because you're always afraid that, yeah, we get these opportunities, but maybe people will be like, well, we did an Asian show, so we're good. It's like, how do you remind people that you have to keep?
Well, yeah, because you say you make a dent. You got to just keep on denting. Yeah. You got to make a lot of dents. And I think when you make one thing and you encourage other creators of color to make their own things, as opposed to being competitive, which is what naturally happens, I think, when there's like a scarcity complex and you think there's only room for one. But if you like stand together in solidarity with whatever marginalized group wants to have their story out there, it becomes incredibly powerful. And I think that only fuels the progress to continue.
So is that something you look for personally? Do you look for projects or directors or other actors that are Asian American that you want to support their projects?
For sure. I mean, I try to make my choices, you know, with like an intersectional mindset. I think almost every job, acting job, like on-screen acting job I've taken since I started Fresh Off the Boat has either been directed by a person of color or a woman. I'm pretty sure the ones that I've chosen after that. One was directed by two people. One was a white dude and the other was an Asian dude. But that one still counts,
Yeah,
I
I'll
think.
take it.
Yeah.
That still works for me.
Yeah.
So what else do you have going on? Obviously, this has been a huge year. Are you working on any other film projects? Anything you want to share with us?
Well, right now I'm really busy shooting season 5 of Fresh Off the Boat. Crazy Rich Asians has changed my life a lot in that now I'm getting opportunities to do other feature films that really star me. You know, I never thought that would happen because I'd never seen it happen. I don't have any specific things that I've like officially, you know, signed on the dotted line, but there are a lot of fun things that that I'm choosing from that I hope I make the best choice, and I hope that people enjoy it. That's all I can say.
I think we will enjoy it, definitely,
you.
because you're a joy to watch on screen, big and small screen. So
Thank you.
anything you do, I'm sure will be great. Now let's go to the audience really quick for some questions before we go. Who do we have first? There?
Hi, Constance. I've been a big fan since I watched season 1, and I'm a big fan of Crazy Rich Asians as well. My question is, like, what advice do you have for, like, aspiring, like, Asian American actors, writers, directors? And also, like, how was your conversation with your parents when you told them I wanted to be an actor?
Right. You know, I never told my parents I wanted to be an actor. I just always was. I mean, I started out real young. I started out in community theater back in Virginia. And my parents, when you're like 10, and I like sang a lot, my parents loved it when I sang because it's like cute, you know? And they loved that I did theater because it was like a wholesome type of extracurricular activity. But people ask me this a lot, specifically Asian American people. And the thing I tell them is, not necessarily what to say, but I tell them, you don't have to listen to your parents, which I don't know if everybody likes that advice, but it's true. You don't have to listen to your parents. And the advice I would give to any person starting out is just to, you know, determine your own metric of self-worth, not an external one, whether it be the culture at large or even your parents or even like, I don't know, your acting coach. Determine what you think is good work and why you think it's good work and stick to that through thick and thin. And that will help you sort of be your compass. Yeah.
Did your parents have a different dream for you, though, once you were old enough where they're like, are you really going to do this acting thing?
I mean, my parents know that I'm pretty headstrong. I think there was like a time when my dad tried to like segue me into something else. Like, maybe you could be a news anchor. I'm like, it's not the same thing. But no, I mean, they're pretty, I want to say hands off. They let us be very independent in our own choices, which was a type of freedom that not everybody has. So I was really lucky.
Next question.
Hi, Constance.
Hi.
So we have a question from a fan watching at home, and they are asking, what is the best financial advice you've received?
Actually, I forgot who told me this. It was an actor who was like a working actor, but she was a lot older. I think she was like in her 50s. Was it? But she told me, now, while you're young and while you don't have obligations such as like children or a mortgage, you know, take this time to invest in yourself and invest in the things you want to do. And I did that. And it worked out for me, so I'm glad I did.
One of my personal favorite quotes is, you can make money by doing what you love. And that's something I told myself very early on. And you kind of maintain that sensibility even when you start making more money. It's like, I'm doing what I love, so it doesn't really matter how much money I make.
Yeah, and the more you love what you're doing, the less money you need to like fill the empty holes with like stuff. You don't need to get cool stuff, because you're doing what you love and all your choices are being motivated by that. So.
Right with you. And last question.
Hi, Constance.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. My name is Justin Liu.
Hi,
I just want to
Justin.
say, like, personally, just thank you for just being able to represent all of us and Asian Americans. I just really appreciate that.
Oh.
And my question is, what are, like, the stereotypes within your roles that relate to your personal life, and what are some key takeaways that you've gained from them?
Oh, great question. Thank you. Well, with Fresh Off the Boat, I think it was a big hot button issue that my character had an accent. And I know that even myself, like I first prickled when that happened, and I had to dig deep in myself and ask myself what is inherently shameful about having an accent. And I realized there's nothing shameful about having an accent. It's something that people who know 2 languages have, especially if they learned the second language as an adult, which isn't easy to do. And so it made me realize that it was the culture around Hollywood that had made me feel that shame or feel like it was something to ridicule. And I made the decision to not let that culture be my metric of what is shameful and what is not. And I think when I made that mental shift, it just gave me an appreciation for like how I grew up and how my parents raised me. So that was a stereotype that I think people still worry about, which is valid. But it's also good to think of it the other way, to sort of create your own standard instead of reinforcing Hollywood's standard by buying into it. And then with Crazy Rich Asians, I think the bigger thing with that is sort of our preconceived ideas of wealth and socioeconomic status. And I think what's great about that movie is that it sort of tied it all together. Because I think even though Eleanor prejudges Rachel a little bit because, you know, she thinks she's like poor and low class, Rachel, in a way, prejudges Eleanor because she has these ideas of what wealth are. And both these women sort of learn to mutually respect each other because even though they have different bank accounts, they have similar values.
That was a really great question. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well, Constance, I could talk to you all day, but I'm gonna let you go.
Thanks.
If you want to see more of Constance, make sure you check out Fresh Off the Boat Fridays at 8, 7 Central on ABC. Give it up for Constance Wu.
Thanks, everybody.